Hello there, I'm Mr. Vlad and you're watching a Neverwinter guide video. In this video I'll be showing you how to get through Lair of Lostmauth. The first thing you need to know is that it requires 1600 item level to enter. However, if you're a tank, I'd recommend getting a bit beefier than that before trying it out. At the beginning of the dungeon, you have to kill 4 groups or iron golem giants. The way this is usually done is that the tank pulls multiple iron golems and a single group of enemies. Of course, any combination works as long as you kill 4 packs of mobs. The first boss is relatively easy. As a melee damage dealer, your top priority is to stand behind the boss, and if you're ranged, you have to focus on avoiding the red circle indicator because it usually does one-shot you. As a tank, you have to be ready to take a decent chunk of damage. The boss has a ranged attack that hits like a truck, so try to get to him as quickly as possible, and if you can't, just make sure you don't get one-shot. At 50% of his health, the boss will dismount his Rage Drake mount. If your group's damage is low, it's best to focus down the Rage Drake first, but most of the time your group can just keep focusing down the boss. Again, in this phase, as a melee damage dealer, your top priority is to stay behind the boss because his attack becomes much wider and it's much easier to hit you. After the first boss and you dropping through an endless pit of darkness, you'll have to kill a small group of enemies. After killing these, one of the 3 gates will open. Each of these give you an alternative path to the next boss. The one on the right is very simple. A few rocks will fall from the ceiling and you'll have to kill a few groups of enemies, but other than that, it's just a bit of jumping. The one in the middle is slightly more annoying but still very easy. You'll have to walk through this obstacle course of great balls of fire. If you're a tank, blocking will make you immune to their knockback. If you're anything else, you can just dodge through them and they won't knock you back. Now the gate on the left is by far the hardest, especially for people going through it for the first time. It's what I like to call the parkour course. It involves fun activities such as jumping up these platforms while also making sure you time your jump well enough to avoid the great balls of knockback. Dodging after jumping is the best way to avoid being knocked back, and there's a couple of safe spots as you can see in the video. As a tank, blocking your way through the balls is by far the easiest way to do this. But that's not all. You also have to go play a lovely mix of hopscotch and the floor is lava, because the floor is literally lava. On the video, you can see which path is best to take. If you have a short dodge like a hunter ranger or a control wizard, you can get through this very easily. If not, it'll take a bit of jumping, but it's still doable. The lava doesn't instantly kill you, so just look for the nearest possible short pillar and hop back onto it, or if you're near the start or the end, you can also just jump onto those platforms. Before the next boss fight, there's an easy group of enemies. After killing them, a broken up bridge will raise up from the lava beneath, and you can hop your way over it to get to the twin scorpions. For twin scorpions, I'll show you 2 different ways to do the boss fight. The first, and pretty much the easiest way to do this, is to have a tank that can just man mode tank both of these bastards at the same time. It's pretty rough on the tank, but it can definitely be done. When your group decides to do the boss that way, as a damage dealer, your main objective is to kill one of the scorpions as quickly as possible. Usually it's the one on the right as you enter. Another way to do it is to have one damage dealer kite the left scorpion while the group kills the other one. Some classes can kite more easily than others. As a hunter ranger, I rely on my artifact weapon class specific passive that gives me movement speed when I use aimed shot. The scorpions do move more quickly than most players. The best way to avoid their auto attacks is to just move in one direction. That way you can avoid the auto attack because it has a long animation. Between each auto attack, the scorpion will do this huge lava spitting attack towards you, so save your dodges for that. Sometimes, the scorpions will use different attacks instead of their pinch of death, such as using their stinger to make a pool of lava that does a lot of damage. The other one they might do is to shoot lava into the air. The way you recognize it's this attack is because one person or companion will start having little red circles show up around them. If you notice that it's you or near you, just keep walking and you should be fine. There's a decent amount of time before those things land, so you don't have to spend stamina dodging. If you're near other people and you think they're falling on top of you, walk away the same way, but make sure you're not walking into somebody else because you might get them killed. After killing the twin scorpions, you have to walk towards the huge gate. If the little encounter where you have to kill a bunch of enemies isn't starting, then the group has to walk back to the entrance of the boss room and then walk back to the gate. This will make the encounter start. The encounter is a joke. The enemies are level 30 and everyone can just one-shot them. Sometimes they glitch out and stand on top of the platforms that they spawn on, but just give them some time and they'll jump down into their inevitable doom. The last boss is a dragon. For people that are doing it for the first time, this fight will probably be very frustrating, as it might seem like it's impossible to avoid all the dangers. As a tank, what you want to do is keep the dragon as still as possible. The more he moves, the harder it is for damage dealers to position. As with any dragon, when tanking, stand right in front of their face. That way, they won't ever turn to attack you. Another job you have as a tank in this fight is to pay attention for the eye ray that the boss sometimes uses. You should position yourself in such a way that you block the eye ray if the boss does it on someone other than you. It does a fair bit of damage even to a tank, so be prepared for that by blocking or using some ability. As a damage dealer, you should stay at his sides as much as possible because it is a dragon fight, so you don't want to get clawed or munched from the front of the dragon, or tail whipped by standing behind it. If you are ranged, stick as close as you can to the edge of the room as possible to avoid the great balls of fire. If you are melee, for the most part you won't have to worry about those balls unless you have to back off from the boss. Keep a close eye at your feet to make sure that the rock isn't falling on top of you. If it is, the safest bet is to dodge out of it, or to instantly start blocking as a tank. Once the boss drops to 50% of his health, he will fly up and that's your cue to get into the small pentagon platform in the middle. Ideally, everyone should grab their own corner of the pentagon and stick to it. While Lostmauth is in the air, rocks will fall on top of a random player, one at a time. These will one-shot pretty much anyone, and the ones that they don't one-shot, they'll knock back into the lava and that'll kill them. Make sure that you stare at your feet, and the second you see the red indicator, walk out of it. Once the rock falls down, step back to where you were, so that you don't block others from seeing their indicator. I would advise not to dodge, because most of the time you will end up in the lava outside of the platform. If you absolutely have to dodge, immediately dodge back onto the platform, that way you can avoid taking damage from the lava for the most part. After this phase ends and Lostmauth comes back, random parts of the whole platform you're fighting on will be filled with lava. There's a fair bit of time before this happens, so just pay attention to where you're standing. If it's red, just move to another part of the platform. As a tank, whenever you can, set it up so that Lostmauth's tail is in the lava, and that his side is set up so that there's a platform with no lava on it. This way you can ensure that nobody gets tail whipped while also letting damage dealers stay safe by being at his side. The I-beams we mentioned earlier mostly happen in this second phase when the lava starts filling the room. The lava-filled platform parts and I-beams can happen in the first part of the fight, but it's relatively rare. As a non-tank, when you are targeted by the I-beams, wait for the two beams to be close to meeting and then start dodging until the attack hits you. This way you can avoid taking damage. And that's pretty much it regarding Lair of Lostmauth. It's a lot to take in, yeah, but after a few runs it'll be very easy. In my opinion, this is probably the most complex of the lower end dungeons, so if you can get used to these fights and mechanics, you should be fine in most of the other dungeons in the game. If you learned something from this video, please leave a like. It takes a second of your time but helps me out a lot. If you enjoy these types of guides, subscribe because I'll be making more Neverwinter guides in the future. Thank you so much for watching and bye.